Hello and welcome to another episode of the Revenue Revolution podcast sponsored by Joint Flows. Today we're joined by Ben Smith, Director of Global Business Development at Reachdesk. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited to chat through some stuff.
Awesome. We're excited too. I've heard of you for a while and I've seen you around. I've never actually formally met you, so really excited to have this session. Bring our listeners up to speed. Who are you? Who is Ben, and how have you got to where you are today?
Yeah, gosh, it's been quite the journey over the last 4.5 years. So I used to be a professional ice skater, skating with Disney on Ice.
Nice.
Transition into tech sales, where I started with Reachdesk as a BDR, and now I look after the BDR function.
Amazing. You've got a little bit in common with Mick there because Mick used to be a former athlete, so I'm imagining that same level of agility is required with what you were doing as well. It's interesting when people transition in such a contrasting way. There's often characteristics that you can carry over that are beneficial, and then there's also characteristics or traits that you have that are not so beneficial. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because we often speak about athletes or former athletes who transition as well, but there's a certain level of dedication required with what you were doing.
Yeah, so I think mindset is a really big part of it. I used to wake up at 4 a.m., go ice skating, and then make it back to school for 8 a.m. The travel was like an hour
Wow.
there and back. So the mindset I think has really helped me in the world of sales.
Mm,
Um, I think some of the habits that I've taken with me into sales, which aren't so good, is not everyone has the same level of work ethic or attention to detail as myself, and I found it really hard, especially moving into management, to kind of come to terms with that.
mm,
Because I hold myself to a really high standard. But everyone's in it for different reasons, and not everyone is in it for the same reason why I'm in it. So I think that was something I really struggled with. But
yeah.
since doing this for a bit longer, I think I've developed more compassion, empathy, and understanding, and I hope my team would say the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really struggled with, and I think for a lot of athletes moving into it, the way that they work is different to people with different backgrounds, and that's good at the end of the day. Having diverse team around you is only a positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you made an interesting point there when you transitioned into management. How did you deal with that? Because I know when I transitioned into management, one of the things that I found really difficult was to almost take a step back. Instead, I was trying to do everything for everyone and make sure everyone's doing things the way I would like to do things.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people probably face that as well. So how did you overcome this?
I didn't very well, to be honest, when we started. I think, I wanted everything to be done my way, and what worked for me was what I wanted everyone else to have success with. But you don't get very far by doing things that way. So I think I learned the hard way with it. But once I started letting go, I think letting go of the Legos is a term that's been used before.
Mm,
Um, Things started getting better. People were able to work in the way that they wanted to. I was able to get the best out of people, and it was a far more collaborative environment. So, I was less stressed because I wasn't putting as much pressure on myself, was really trusting in my team. And I think that's when we started to see some really good results.
Ben, so I've got similar background, artistic sports, and I think like there's different levels in sports. I think ice skating and diving in this kind of remits are probably the most gruesome
Mhm.
sports. Like you wake up before social hours because you need to go to the ice rink when before people actually go and pay to get access to the ice rink. Same with diving, before people go leisure and then access the swimming pool, you need to fit in your training session. Often the same thing happens during lunchtime, and then another one after school or after work, and that requires dedication. And the question I have for you is, how do you then set expectations with your team that are not necessarily in line with your level of expectation, as you were saying, where you can put yourself outside of your comfort zone and stay there probably forever. And then for you, it's like just business as usual. But people with perhaps a more regular background would struggle to do that journey outside of the comfort zone and then stay there for a while. How do you coach that?
Yeah, I think setting clear expectations first of all is always important. So they're not just my expectations; they're the expectations of the business and the company. So you have those kind of business goals and expectations, which is what we need to be achieving. I think then it's the personal expectations, you know, really understanding someone's why they're in this, what's their motivations, what's their why, and digging into it further. I think I never used to really dig into people's whys enough to understand, you know, why they're coming to work, why they want to be in this industry, what they want to be getting out of this. And it's really important because we spend so much time at work that you're getting out of it as much as you're putting into a business and a company. And, you know, we aren't our jobs at the end of the day. Our jobs and our careers don't define us as people. Before we would have said, you know, in my early stages starting out, that it does define me as a person, but it really doesn't. So I think it's really important to as a manager dig into people's why and really understand that, and then that's how you can set people to their own expectations ultimately, which is why, you know, how we all want to be treated.
Yeah. And how does it work the other way around? Because we often speak about how you manage down, but how do you manage up when your manager, your line manager, is probably doesn't have the same background as you, and maybe your expectation of coaching, given your background, is much higher than what you get through, you know, your professional work. How is that relationship going as well?
I think first of all, you know, I always talk about it's okay to fail. If we're failing and making mistakes, then we're learning and improving. So setting the expectations, or giving that freedom to the people that I work with to say it's okay to fail. I think then as an employer, once you've got that freedom, really, you know, managing up, it's about saying what you're trying, what you're doing differently. I like to use a framework called PPP, which is progress, plans, problems. And that's how I always managed up, was being really communicative with my manager and saying, you know, this is the progress that I'm making. These are the plans that I'm going to try. These are the things that, you know, might work, might not work, but I'm going to try them. And then these are the problems, these are the blockers that I'm struggling with, the problems that I'm facing, the things that I need help with. And that way you always get ahead of these conversations, because you're being proactive around that communication rather than reactive. And I think managing up, you've got to be proactive. When you manage up, people want to know the ugly, you know, they want to know what isn't going well, so they can help you fix it. It's a partnership, you're in it together.
Yeah, I love that. Talk a little bit about the ins and outs of your role. So what's the remit that you hold at the moment at Reachdesk?
Yeah, so I look after, you know, I do a lot with our event strategy. So at in-person events. I think me as a BDR, I used to thrive at events. I think I was quite nervous when I started doing events, but found that I was generating most of my pipeline from going to events. So I look after quite a lot of our event strategy. I look after our global business development team, which is really interesting actually, in seeing how that's developed over time. A lot of the time, you know, it used to be around how can we create as much demand and then capture it as well. Whereas now we're transitioning into how can we capture a lot of that demand.
Yeah.
I also look after our partnerships team. So with our partnerships, we're working with people in our ecosystem, similar companies to kind of help that word of mouth, co-marketing, co-selling side of things. And I also work really closely with our sales, demand gen, ABM, operations team, our CRO, to make sure there's real alignment there and we're driving towards the same goals and visions.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of it is around filling that top of the funnel, making sure there's enough activity going in there to generate meaningful meetings. And there's a lot of functions that you just described over there as well. And it's not often that you see all of these come together cohesively. So I often see organizations where they have all these different units working in silo to one another. And it becomes really difficult then to have a unified strategy. So talk a little bit to that in terms of like, how is it that you overcome those silos? How do you get people to move in the same direction together, especially when there's so many moving pieces?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So we've adopted an all-bound strategy. So what I mean by all-bound is that we have inbound, outbound, BDRs, sales, marketing, partnerships, operations, you know, all working together for those same goals. So no matter where the opportunity is coming from, we really put the focus on the buyer. So we know that the buying cycles change. We know that the buyer journey's changed. People buy kind of a bit like spaghetti at the minute, right? And you have to capture them wherever they are in their buyer journey. And once you can get everyone aligned to that vision, it makes things a lot easier because we're working together rather than working against each other. You know, it's not marketing saying, hey, sales, go and follow up on all these leads. And it's not sales saying, well, these leads aren't any good, you know, you need better quality. It's like, we've from the start used kind of that account-based motion of understanding who our ICP is, where the focus is going to be, what the types of accounts are that we want to go after. And it's not always, the pretty logos or the logos which a lot of companies would go after. It's the ones which are strategically going to help us grow as a business, and that we can help them, more importantly.
Yeah, excellent. And it's interesting everything that you said over there as well in terms of how it is you bring people together. Talk about some of the challenges, I guess, like what was the ultimate challenge that you face when you first had to bring all these units together?
Challenge we faced, we had to bring the units together. There definitely were challenges. I think for us it was a lot easier because from the day we were born, we were account based in the way that we were thinking. We've always been focused on defining our ideal customer profile and kind of working through each of those segments. I think the hardest thing has probably been the market and the market, to be honest with you. That's thrown challenges at us and kind of made us think differently quite quickly. We've had to be quite agile to the way that we've been working, and looking at things a lot more often, and changing tactics and strategies a lot more often. So then it's the communication. I think that's probably the hardest piece, is having time to execute whilst also informing and letting people know what it is that you're working on, and what's going well and what isn't going well within it.
Yeah.
Just shameless plug here, but we were user 1 and 2 of Reachdesk at our time at Yieldify, so we really love the journey. Like, it's quite remarkable how you've been able to pivot during COVID, when the value proposition of Reachdesk was to kind of get on the corporate desks, and now everyone works from home. There's no more corporate desk, it's like personal desk. So a huge fan of the nimbleness and the agility. And it's a question I have for you, Ben. When you've got such a shift in the market where it's like almost polar opposite, all right, now we are going almost like 180 degrees down the other journey, how do you quickly put a strategy together, and then how do you derive that into tactics that you can then deploy?
Yeah, I think it comes down to understanding, first of all. So, just being very aware of what's going on around you and why things might be changing. I think if you obsess over the right metrics, then you can spot things quite easily when they're going wrong, and then you can course correct. When we went into COVID, that was crazy, right? As you said, we had our strategy and direct mail and gifting as it was then. When we were calling it back then direct mail 2.0, we're probably in direct mail 4.0.
Yeah.
But direct mail 2.0 was sending things to people's offices, and when the offices were shut down, it was either, well, that's it, the business is over, we can't send things to people's offices, or it's how do we find a solution to send people things to wherever they are in the world. And that's exactly what we did. We went through a huge growth phase because of that, and I think that's then really motivating to keep innovating and keep adapting to what's happening around you. So I don't know if that truly answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think the where I'm trying to get to is, so often the reaction when something goes completely in a different direction is huge panic. People start arguing. You don't know who's leading, who's not leading. Should you follow a path? Should you not? And then by the time you find a solution, you kind of miss the boat. And that's often, like a just natural reaction. Like, oh man, I didn't see that coming. We're in trouble. And then people just got really defensive. But in your case, at least from the outside, looking in, it looks like it's almost like, gosh, these guys, they just surfed that wave like so well that it felt almost like it was planned, like there was a B plan all along, it was so well executed. How did you manage that when, at leadership level, when, all right, we need to get together here, and then we need to come together with a solution and really quickly find the right solution as well, because we don't have room for mistake here?
Yeah, I think first of all, there will be mistakes which are made along the way. It comes back to that culture that I talk about. First of all, is giving the space to be allowed to fail. As long as you're talking about those failures and you're learning from them, then it makes it a lot easier to find new solutions. So I think that's the first thing. I think on the execution part, you've just got to be really focused. It's hard. It is a lot of work. It's hard, but it's so rewarding when you find the right solution. You start seeing the changes. I think the biggest change for me that we're going through at the minute is, it was all about growth at all costs, right? That's where the industry was at. You saw a lot of tech companies, they had a big boom. They were adding headcount, growing at all costs, but weren't actually very profitable. Now the market's shifted and it's profitability at all costs. So you have to make some hard decisions sometimes, and it can be sad, some of those decisions that you have to make as a business, but they're the right decisions ultimately to be making to then help you on the trajectory that the company needs to go on. And then getting people bought into that vision, those goals is really important, so they can do the jobs that they need to do and feel motivated and rewarded for doing them. And then you've just got to be all about the execution. It's all good having a strategy and plan, but if you can't execute on it, then it's not going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've spoke quite a bit about agility, about adjusting, about pivoting. And one of the things you mentioned was how people are buying now is different as well. And that's going to have a direct impact in terms of, everything that you're essentially responsible for. So, there's more stakeholders now, sales cycles are longer, all this stuff. We know that much of the buying process is now happening before you actually engage with the prospect as well. So how have you adjusted the motions that you guys are making internally to be able to understand when the right time is, and how is it you're approaching these prospects?
Yeah, so I always look at it in three parts: people, process, and tools when I'm putting together my strategy there. So I think that's been helpful to align to that for this change. With people's buying journey's changing at the minute, the things that we've done is got greater focus. So we've implemented different segments across the business. So that's our emerging segments, core, moderate, emerging, and then we've also done it in terms of our employee headcount sizes, so enterprise, mid-market, commercial. So that's put the right people in the right segments to be able to serve those markets more efficiently, more effectively, give the best experience as possible. Some tools that we've implemented to help with that is, Chili Piper on our website. So as soon as somebody comes onto our website, they can put in a demo with the right AE or the correct person. Typically, if people are reaching out to you, they want a different buyer experience to when you're reaching out to them. So I think that's really important to note. Tools like Sixth Sense help us identify the right accounts at the right times to then get the right people reaching out to them, the right messaging. We're looking at our event strategy, our direct mail strategy, thinking about the experience that we can bring to the customer there. I think something which is really important is, and I think this is a lot of my job, is not just to think about what's in pipeline right now, but also think about the people which might be buying in the future and making sure that we're giving them a good experience. So we're the first to the party in the future, for when the time is better for them, when their job role changes, etc. They've already had a good experience.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that last point there. I think it's a great point as well. Often you can get real tunnel vision and not think about what's going to happen after the next step that you take. So how do you ensure you're front of mind, or Reachdesk are front of mind for these people?
Yeah, so I mean, just talking about the above the line, below the line personas, every sales team wants C-level people on that first call that they have, but we all know how difficult it is to engage those people, right? So I'm thinking about people who started out as BDRs when I started out as BDR, who are now there's a friend of mine at Branch has now just moved into a VP of sales position within 4 years, 5 years of being in BD. People go through progression, promotions and progression quite quickly. So I think it's about looking, in 4 or 5 years' time, somebody that's a BDR now just starting in marketing, they could be holding the whole budget in 4 or 5 years' time. So I look, try and look to the future and educate our team on that as much as what we can capture right now. So I think experience is so important. Aligning your messaging to where somebody is at in the buyer journey is critical. Always reevaluating your messaging. Why are people buying right now? What are the key pain points that they're struggling with that we might be able to help them solve? What events are we putting on that we can invite them to and get them in a room talking to everyone else and strategizing with everyone else and kind of just having a bit of event sometimes. We all feel like we're in this alone and doing it together, but it's amazing when you can get people in a room and have a conversation around what's going on in their lives, in their world, and what they're doing about it, and the ideas that come from that as well.
Nice. And then you're, as per usual with Reachdesk, you're kind of pioneering some initiatives. So like ABM is very much Reachdesk powered, I find, especially in the UK. You go on LinkedIn and you look for IBM content, and it's Reachdesk, and then you've got people trying to go and then jump on the bandwagon a little bit. Can you educate us a little bit about what does that mean, and through Reachdesk lens, like how is it shaped?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Our founder Alex talks a lot about account-based marketing, and the first problem with account-based marketing is the marketing part. It puts a focus on it just being marketing, whereas account-based is really sales. It's that alignment across your whole go-to-market function, which is now why we like to talk about the all-bound motion over an account-based marketing strategy. Essentially, it's that go-to-market function aligning to that end goal of revenue. So you've got one-to-one, you've got one-to-few, one-to-many campaigns that you can start running as part of that account-based motion. Essentially, looking at the types of messaging, the accounts that you're targeting, the tactics that you're using to engage those accounts at the different stages. Ultimately, what the main goal is to move an account from a target account into a closed won account. So you need to make them aware of aware that they've got a problem, essentially. Then highlight that you could be a good solution for them. Then they're committed to you and kind of committed to purchasing a solution. And when you break it down like that, you can understand where each of the accounts are in their buying journey, and align everyone to moving them across that funnel.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's twofold to it. How you go into an account, which is one of the sides, and then the second side is how do you not cannibalize internal departments' success? Like you were saying earlier in the podcast that marketing, BDs, sales, you all work towards the same goal, and it almost doesn't matter now where the opportunity originates. Like, how do you do these two things in parallel?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the BD, business development side of things. So the BDRs, they get credited for an opportunity when it converts to an opportunity.
Yeah.
We call that discovery demo. They also then get credited when it moves into scoping. So I think business development of the function used to only get paid on, or they used to get paid out on setting meetings. So every time they book a meeting, that's when they would get paid out, which doesn't align to the goal of closing revenue at all. I think then it moved into BDRs being compensated and credited for the stage one, so opportunities. But now we really need to continue that even further. BDRs have a lot more difficult job. The expectations are a lot higher, but ultimately, if you want to improve your close rates, then everyone needs to be committed and a part of those responsibilities to try and close revenue. And then BDRs at Reachdesk are also compensated on close won revenue as well, which I think is really important.
Oh, nice.
So
that was my dream as a BDR. It was really weird because I always felt like the BDR commission plan, compensation plan was never actually aligned with what the end goal of that unit is, which is, we need to sign some deals out of it. And not only we need to sign them, but they need to be profitable and high revenue generating. So nice. So you're basically commissioning throughout the funnel to align.
Exactly, yeah. And what that really encourages is, BDRs helping with multi-threading, re-engaging different parts of the business. It helps when a deal might stall and
Yeah.
it
Yeah, I
goes.
like it.
It's tough when you only get one voice from within a company, right? This is a team effort for us to sell, but also a team effort to help the customer as much as possible. And you need different people in the business to do that.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I think it's really good. Question I had then. So we've spoken all about the different moving pieces, the different departments that need to come together. It might be difficult to answer, but in this climate of today, what's the one that can move the needle the most and why?
Just repeat that so I understand, sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of all the different tactics and teams and departments that come together to be able to generate all of these meetings at the top of the funnel for the company, there's a lot. And we spoke about all about motion. We spoke about everybody working together. If there was one thing or one team or department or strategy that can move the needle the most to be able to generate more meetings, which one would it be and why?
One strategy.
You're allowed to say it's gifting, Ben. It's like the best window you've got here.
Just teed you up.
Gifting is a big part of it, but it's more widely a bigger part of having that multi-channel strategy. I think it still comes down to selecting the right accounts and putting the right resources on those accounts, and then engaging them with a multi-channel, multi-touch strategy. If you just rely on one channel or one touch point, then you're missing out on how other people like to be engaged with and interacted with. So I think it's that. I think BDRs, AEs, teams in general, you'll see them creating a lot more content on LinkedIn, because typically that was left to marketing to do, but it's no longer just marketing's responsibility to create a brand, not just for somebody individually, but also for the company. And then getting a CS involved. How can you create advocates and start looking at your customers as influencers to promote good word of mouth, essentially. All helps.
Yeah.
All of these different touch points and tactics help new business acceleration, customer growth, etc. So it's important everyone's in it together.
Yeah, sure. And I one thing I see Reachdesk do really well is just that point you touched on at the end, is we often see prospects or customers of Reachdesk tag Reachdesk on a LinkedIn post, right? And I'd never seen a company do it so well or be tagged so many times before. What's the secret to this?
What's the secret to tagging people, or what's the secret?
What's the secret to them tagging Reachdesk continuously? We always see posts, big shout out to this person from Reachdesk. They did a great job. They did this. They sent us this, or thanks to Reachdesk, we've been able to achieve goal X or goal Y. I see this a lot more so with Reachdesk than any other company.
Yeah.
And so
it's almost become a verb, Oh, you've been Reachdesk. And then I remember Alex on LinkedIn was be like, hey, I've been Reachdesk. Like, so someone has actually used Reachdesk on me to get a meeting. And I was like, hey, these guys are literally creating vocabulary, like.
It's I think when you think about it, so many communications, you can't see them, you can't touch them, you can't feel them. Whereas with direct mail and gifting, it's such a emotive channel, and it's something tangible and shareable. We've seen it in B2C for years, right? Influencers in B2C, they get sent something, they post it on social. A lot of them get paid for it when they're doing it, but as people are always looking to create content now. As part of who we are as people, we want to be able to share things. I mean, how do you go about sharing a cold call, or how do you go about sharing a call that you've had with your CSM? You can talk about a good experience perhaps, but when you've got something there which is easy to share, and you put a hashtag associated with what you're sending people, you start amplifying that brand and that voice, not just through your network, but through other people's as well. And people want to share it. It's exciting to share something that that you've received. I still get excited when I order something online and I forget about it and it turns up the door. I'm like, oh, what is this? I can't wait. But I think that's a lot for a
And
lot.
then talk to us. So we've touched on LinkedIn and then brand building and creating advocacy and all of that. You're a big part of the SDR landscape in the UK with a lot of communities that you've either initiated or like co-led or even led all together. Battle of the Phones was one of them. Was really impressed by. Where does that start? Like, is there all right, the underlying question is, do you do this initially to kind of drive revenue, or is it completely altruistic and then really is to just help people?
I'll be honest, it's a lot of fun. I come to work and I work in this industry because I want to have fun. I really struggled to get into this industry, and you know, sales and B2B, I think, had such a bad rep. I remember being in PR for B2C, and I used to get job offers saying, "Do you want to come to work for B2B?" And I had this idea in my mind, "God, no, that sounds really boring and dull." And then I started to look into it, and I was like, "Wow, this is really exciting and fun." So when I got into it, I thought, I want to make this fun for me. I want to try and change the way that B2B sales is perceived, and I want to then give back to people and help people as they get started in their role, and find diverse people and diverse talent from all different places that can help this industry grow and evolve as well. So selfishly, I do it for myself because I love it, and I love giving back, and love seeing that what I'm putting in is helping the industry change and adapt, and the perception of it change. But yeah, I guess off the back of it, it also helps with recognition for the people that I'm surrounding myself with.
Yeah, that's really good. Like we're trying to do a little bit of that as well. Not through proper communities, like properly structured communities, but you see us on LinkedIn posting very regularly, and then we're trying to be honest about what we're sharing. It's not just, hey, this has worked, cool, we've got the best company in the world, and so on and so forth. Is a now we've not booked any meetings today, or like actually I keep getting rejected, and so on and so forth. So yeah, transparency, I think, in this kind of communities really help. I remember seeing you also involved on onboarding calls. If I remember, you do attend post-signature activity. Like, what is this driving? What are you trying to achieve doing this?
I think, you know, at Reachdesk, we drink orange champagne, right? So I create a lot of the direct mail campaigns, strategy, etc. Test a lot of different things, and I think it's important that I share that knowledge with our customers as much as possible as well. So you know, my time is limited, but whenever I get the opportunity and chance, you know, I'm always open to trying to help our customers, or just anyone really, who's interested in using direct mail and gifting. We'll talk about business development and strategies, tactics, things which I've tried and failed at miserably, letting people know that so they don't have to go and try that as well.
Yeah, love that. So you know, Ben, if you look at your CV or your LinkedIn, as it were, you've obviously been at Reachdesk for quite a long time, coming up to 5 years. So congratulations on that, firstly. And you've had multiple roles as well, and it's been interesting because the roles that you've moved on to have always been a level up. It's been a level up, it's level up. What kind of advice can you give to somebody who starts as an SDR and wants to move up? So, you know, a lot of SDRs that I've come across in my career, they're very ambitious. It's always you know, I'm not here to be an SDR forever. I want to be an SDR for X period of time. And then after that, I need to do this instead. And you've obviously successfully navigated a multitude of different roles. So what kind of advice would you give to an SDR starting off right now who's got that ambition?
Yeah, I would say it's hard. Like, first of all, it's hard when you start. It's not difficult, it's hard work, right? The amount you put in is what you get out of it. I think the conversations that I have with a lot of SDRs, BDRs is that they want to progress quickly, which who doesn't, right? You know, some people don't, but who doesn't want to progress quickly? My advice though is take your time. give yourself those moments in that journey to reap the rewards and benefits. I remember a year and a half into my time at Reachdesk, that was when I started to see all that pipeline that I built really close the revenue wise, start coming back to me a lot more. So I had to stop doing as much cold outreach. If I'd moved on at a year and a half of being at Reachdesk, I would have had to have worked really hard again. And that's exhausting. So sometimes just sit, wait, reap the rewards of the energy and time that you've put into a business. I think loyalty, with a business goes a really long way as well. And then once you're not having to work on the cold prospecting, that's when you've given yourself an opportunity and time to start developing in other areas. By then you probably have a better understanding of where you want to go, what you're passionate about. Is it leadership? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it RevOps? Is it that you really, you've been on demos and you've loved what the solution engineers are up to and doing? But give yourself time to try different things, get exposure to different things. I always think you should be doing the job before you move into it in a lot of capacity. Trust me, it makes it a lot easier when you're already doing it and transitioning into that role, rather than pushing for something which you might not be quite ready for just yet. But give yourself time and try and give yourself time to reflect and enjoy where you're at, not always be thinking about the next thing.
Yeah, and when you're doing something like this as well, and you're moving from role to role, obviously within the same organization, there's going to be skill gaps that you potentially have as you transition through as well. So the element of, or the focus on development is extremely important as well. So how do you go about ensuring that you're able to develop at the pace that you need to, and identifying where those gaps are in the first instance?
Yeah, so I think you need to be setting really clear goals of what you want to be achieving. Start of the year is a great way to reflect on the year and then plan for where you want to be in a year's time. Break it down into quarters then. What are my quarterly goals? What do I want to be achieving? And think of it in terms of, we look at the competency framework. So if you don't have one, ask your manager for a competency framework. What are their expectations? What are the skills that you need to develop to do the job really well that you're in right now, but also to start thinking about stretching yourself. So we put together competency frameworks for the BDR team, for the managers. I have one. It helps me keep focused on things that I think I'm good at, and then I go and compare to the co-founder and where he thinks we're good at. Sometimes I'm completely off, and it's nice to have that honest feedback and be like, wow, I really thought I was good at that, but it's good to know I'm not. I'm going to work on that. Or I didn't think I was really good at this, but you think I am. I'd love to, kind of get some understanding of the times where you think I've been demonstrating that. So yeah, personal development plans really important. Competency frameworks are really important. Setting goals, and then communicating up using that PPP framework that I mentioned, with progress, plans, problems, and always being ahead of that.
Yeah. Ben, I've got a question. It's perhaps a little bit personal, so you don't have to answer it. It's going to be the last question, and then we can wrap up. So when I stopped my professional sports career, I went through a very dark place. Like, I felt like my identity had disappeared. Like, I just, I didn't have necessarily any ambition. I never thought about what else I could do. So, and at the beginning of the podcast, you say, yeah, work doesn't define you. Work is not you. It could be a big part of what you're doing, but at the end of the day, it's a different thing. Like, what advice would you give to someone who's probably trying to transition into a different sector, or like even sports-wise, stopping sports to go into something a little bit more, I don't know, like traditional, regular in terms of career?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe if you love what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like work. I think, making that transition from ice skating into this tech sales and this industry, I wasn't loving what I was doing anymore. So it made that job really, really difficult. I could have stuck at it. A lot of people that I was traveling and touring and ice skating with, they're still doing it and they still love it. And I love seeing how much they love it. But I lost that passion. And I think it's good to recognize that. And it was difficult, because I was traveling the world. I had everyone telling me, but you've got the best job ever. Like, you should stick at it. but they're voices around you, right? And it was when I had that moment to myself and realized I don't love this anymore. I
Yeah.
need to make a change, and that's what I did, and now I love what I do, and happy again. So to anyone that's thinking about, if you're not happy in what you're doing, my advice is always make a change. Think about it, but make a change, and listen to what your head and heart is saying, not what anyone else is saying.
Nice. I like it.
Amazing. So we are just about out of time, Ben. It's been great having you on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time. We have a wrap-up question, which is for your whole career to date, and that can be all the way from your ice skating days all the way through to today. What is your favorite memory and why?
What is my favorite memory? God, that's a really tough question. Just shows maybe I don't do enough reflecting as I should do. I think one of my favorite memories is when I got my offer to go and join Busy on Ice. I think that was something I was really passionate about. I tried multiple times to join the ice shows and got rejected multiple times. So when I finally got that offer, this was I was 19 years old. I just didn't quite believe it, to be honest. So that was one of my favorite memories professionally from the things I've been working on for quite a long time. So
Yeah,
amazing.
well, such a milestone as well. It must be so good.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, look, Ben, appreciate you joining us once again. This has been the Revenue Revolution podcast, sponsored by Joint Flows. Until next time, thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ben.
Cheers.